Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And it is time for the annual Up in Flames episode. This time we're burning 2022 to the ground.
That's right. Although, it was a pretty good year.
I would say it's a very impressive year, actually. We're not going to be burning a whole lot to the ground. I think I have mostly positive things to say about the 41 horror movies that I logged this year on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I watched something around there too.
Yep, we're pretty neck and neck.
For the first time, really. I've watched a lot of horror this year, even though I didn't finish my list.
Nor did I. Like, there are still some things that I need to see. So obviously, like, these lists may be a little premature, but, you know, this is what we do every year. We ejaculate this episode prematurely.
Well, luckily there's some overlap, right?
Yeah.
So some of the things that you haven't seen, I have, and vice versa.
That's right. So we have a lot of things to talk about.
Right.
Do you want to kick things off by going through our actual top 10s and then discussing all the wonderfulness that was 2022 horror?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So my number 10 was something that we saw at the Overlook Film Festival in New Orleans.
Okay.
Right. And so this is called Hypochondriac.
Oh, that's also on my list.
Where is it on your list?
It's number 7.
Okay.
Not to confuse people, but
All right.
I'll probably say it again. But yes, it's also on my list. Actually, there are several things from the Overlook on my list. My top 10.
Yeah, I would say at least one. Now that I'm looking at it, some things got pushed off into like a number 11, and, you know, but yeah, Hypochondriac. So this is a movie, if you haven't seen it, it's LGBT. Yes. Right. So it's about a gay guy who's dealing with his mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's very horror adjacent. Wasn't as much horror as I thought it was, but I would still firmly put it in that camp, you know, but it was a surprise and it's genuinely heartfelt. And if someone can make me anxious and scared and also cry in the same movie, then you've won. So,
I mean, 100% agreed. And I mean, like, this does fall a little higher on my list than yours, but I was looking forward to seeing this movie just based on the buzz that I had seen from other festivals that it had played, right? Mm-hmm. So I was really, really ready to see it. I just wasn't prepared to love it as much as I did. I really, really loved this movie a lot. And I think having the director there to talk about it afterward was also kind of special.
Yeah.
And he really put a lot of himself into this movie. And I just fucking adored it. And also, I mean, like, the LGBT aspect of it was good. And I don't think we get to see a lot of movies about or like that, really.
Yeah, and it was very much incidental. It wasn't about being gay.
No.
At all.
It was about mental illness.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like that. I mean, like, it was very horror adjacent, you know, and I think that was a continuing theme in 2022 overall. I feel like we got a really large amount of very, very good horror adjacent movies.
Yeah.
Right. And so that will probably continue to be a theme through our list.
Right. And again, all of our lists are going to be on Letterboxd. Mm-hmm. And I think both of our top 10s I'm going to put in the show notes.
Yep. So. And we typically put out a little infographic on our socials.
That's right.
They will all be available there.
That's right.
My number 10 was something that we also watched at the Overlook Film Festival, but it was a pretty popular and surprisingly critically acclaimed, like, tentpole horror movie, and that was The Black Phone.
Right. And this was our favorite from the festival, which we kind of begrudgingly admitted, right? Because we didn't think it was going to be like the popcorn horror movie, you know, that was our favorite there. We probably wanted to be a little more pretentious than that.
Yeah.
But it ended up, and it's really nothing original. There's really almost nothing original about this movie. And it feels very Stephen King because it, of course, is written
by his son.
And, you know, we didn't expect it. Most of you have probably seen this movie. And if you haven't, then definitely go and see it. It's a good watch. It's just a really well done, solid horror movie.
That's right. And very unexpected. One of the biggest surprises, I think, from this year alone. Because I remember us walking into that screening and we were like, ugh, this is going to suck and blah, blah, blah. And like, by the end of it, I was fucking crying and like ready to clap.
Because the trailer sucked.
The trailer was awful.
Yeah.
And luckily, the movie turned out to be nothing like the fucking trailer.
Well, it was. It's just poorly put together and doesn't give you the emotional hits that the actual movie does. Mm-hmm. And the movie's put together really, really well. And it's shot really, really well. And it's acted really, really well.
Oh, yes.
So it's just really, really solid. There's just nothing new here. It's just a really good example of if your craft is like top notch and everything kind of comes together, then you can make something special, even if it's from nothing, wholly original.
And I think a lot of that credit can go to Scott Derrickson, right? Because I mean, he really did a good job directing this movie.
Yeah, and I don't know if he dropped out of Doctor Strange 2 or whatever to do this, or
he dropped out of it for something. It may have been this.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad that he did, I mean, not to begrudge Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange 2, but like Scott Derrickson really made something very special.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that a lot of people went to go see this movie. So.
And Doctor Strange is on my list of 40 movies, and it's number 17.
It's somewhere on mine.
It's kind of in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, I forget. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Deadstream.
Ooh.
And this kind of came out from nowhere, right?
Well,
and
we were supposed to see that at the Overlook.
We were, and we kind of missed it because they changed our fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they changed it again, too, at some point. Like, there was a little snafu at the Overlook, and we weren't too happy about it. Overall, we were really happy with the Overlook.
Yes.
It remains to be seen how happy we will be with it this year, because, of course, it's up to them to give us press credentials of some kind.
I hope so.
Since we did so much heavy lifting for them last year.
I still want to go, but if you're listening, Overlook, we did a lot of heavy lifting and we're doing it again right now.
That's true. So yeah, Deadstream is, the premise of it doesn't sound like a movie that I'd want to watch, right? And it's about like the YouTube influencer, kind of disgraced and trying to do, it's making fun of like the Logan Pauls and the people like that. And he goes to an actual haunted house. I don't know if he really believes he's going to a haunted house, but he's going there in a live stream. And so it's called Deadstream, right? And it reminds me of Evil Dead. It's actually scary in parts and hilarious in others. And by the end, it's like, it feels very Sam Raimi or homage to Sam Raimi. And it is definitely a great group watch.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a lot of fucking fun.
So I watched that movie twice this year, once on my own and then again with you for your first watch. And it's a really fun movie. And I gave it a really high rating. I think I gave it 4 stars. It just didn't crack my top 10. But it is just a metric shit ton of fun to watch.
It is.
And that lead actor in that is just fucking hilarious.
And he was also the co-writer and director, I believe.
And it shows. I mean, like, that movie just made me laugh so much.
I think he and his wife made this movie, and,
And there it is.
It's great.
So I'd like to see more of what they can do, actually.
Me too. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is, again, something from the Overlook that we saw there that was later released on Shudder, and it's a movie called Watcher.
Oh, that's my number 11. It just got pushed out. Yeah.
I have been checking your list like religiously all year long. Really? Like every time I go to add something to mine, I'm like, let me just take a gander at Chris's, right? And Watcher has like been in the top 10 for a lot of your year. So yeah, it must have gotten pushed back pretty recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Watcher is really good. Like this is one of the first movies that we saw at the festival, and it was kind of a late showing, but I was enthralled with it. Like just like the Hitchcockian levels of suspense and paranoia that are happening in this movie. And it's also kind of like a fish out of water thing with a woman being in like Eastern Europe, and there's like a serial killer on the loose, and she feels like the guy across the way from her in the next building is watching her and is also the serial killer. And she sort of like inserts herself into the goings on. And it's just a really good movie with a really satisfying ending, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. The ending, like I really wanted it to be more like supernatural. I remember watching it for the first time and really hoping it was some sort of vampire or something supernatural, and it wasn't. Spoiler alert, but it is a really kind of, is she insane? It's going along with that, like you're being gaslit by the movie, and she's being gaslit by people around her, and or dismissed, and it's kind of a horror movie that's about something else, right? It's about like trusting women and, psychological trauma and psychological torture and, paranoia and all these things. And I love that it takes place kind of in a foreign country because that's one of the best things I loved about the Grudge remake, right, was because it adds that whole layer of intense anxiety and isolation in a wide open space, right? Because you can't speak the language and you can't really exist there on your own. And so it's super isolating, and there's so many layers to this movie, and I really, really enjoyed Watcher.
Agreed. And I feel like a lot of the dialogue that's not in English, there's no subtitles for. So you really get put into like her situation, right? And I don't know, that actress continues to be just really, really good at her genre work. And whenever I see her in things, I just have to watch it, and Watcher was excellent.
Right. And she was in It Follows.
It Follows and The Guest.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, she's just great. Mm-hmm. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is Prey.
Oh.
Yeah, I did not expect this. We all knew this movie was coming out. I expected it to be a pile of dog shit.
Yep.
Because that's what the Alien franchise has been giving us for these many years, in my opinion.
I mean, like, some of the newer stuff is fun, but like...
Well, the stuff having to do with predators, I would say.
Yeah.
Mostly. Because I want to say we re-examined Prometheus and Covenant recently, and we said, okay, we begrudgingly said, yes, these are good movies. With some caveats. But Prey, I want to say, is, probably the best Predator movie since the first one.
I would agree.
And that's, I don't know if that's saying a lot, but it's saying something, and it is in my top 10. And it's a really good, tense, heartfelt thriller, simple as milk. It's with some ties to some scenes in Predator 2. Mm-hmm. And I really, really dug it, and I want to watch it again.
I do too, actually. And I'm glad it's in one of our top 10s. It didn't quite crack mine. I think it's somewhere around 13, 14. Mm-hmm. But I also was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I really liked the concept, right, of setting it like way in the past, Native American times, and having that kind of a character in it, that female Native American character. My only begrudging dislike of that movie was that it was in English. Like, I really feel like they should have done something.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted them to like kind of dance us with wolves it a little bit.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean, really, really good. Surprisingly good, because like you, I was prepared to be like ho-hum about it, and it turned out to be just fantastic.
So I believe they went back and they did an ADR, like a foreign language version of the Native American language.
Oh.
But I was hoping that they would actually come out and actually do it, Mm-hmm. I would have loved it with subtitles, because a lot of this is like not a lot of talking and action, it's visual storytelling.
Yes.
So I don't know. That's a missed opportunity. And if it had been in that foreign language, then probably would have been closer to my number 1 or something.
Yeah, it would have cracked my top 10 for sure if that were the thing. But I still think it's an excellent movie. And I'm glad that one of us have it in our top 10, because I think it was a really special movie.
Yeah. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is Who Invited Them?
That was a fun movie. I think that was our favorite, beside The Black Phone.
Yes.
That was our favorite from the Overlook Film Festival.
I think that was the most fun that we had watching a movie at the Overlook Film Festival.
It was, because it's snarky and tongue-in-cheek, and we're snarky and tongue-in-cheek, so it was just kind of a match made in heaven.
It really was. And I wasn't expecting to laugh as much as I did.
It's also like a version of The Strangers that we can actually like sit through and not like shit ourselves. So.
Exactly. I mean, like, there are some horrific parts to it, but even the horrific parts are still tongue in cheek and jokes, right? This movie was like joke after joke after joke after joke. And like the acting was just phenomenal, especially Perry Matfield, right?
Oh my God. She was like a breakout. I really want to see more of her and everything.
I do. She was so good in this movie. And like all year long after we watched it, I was like, God, as soon as it comes out, I am going to tell everybody in the world to go and watch this fucking movie.
Yeah.
And I did. So like when people would ask me, like friends or family, they're like, well, what's a good horror movie to watch? I'm like, well, I mean, it's horror adjacent. It's more of a comedy, but go and watch this, That also shows me that almost nobody that I know has Shudder aside from you.
Yeah. Or they could have AMC Plus and watch it.
That's true. Yeah. Now, yeah.
But I rewatched it and I didn't rate it as highly. And so it got pushed down to number 18 for me.
Okay.
But anything like basically at number 20 and above for me are really good movies. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be some special mentions in there. And Who Invited Them would be one of them.
Yes. I thought it was fucking fantastic. What's your number 7?
Resurrection.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And this has one of our favorite actresses who we enjoyed in The Night House.
Rebecca Hall.
Yes, Rebecca Hall. And she does an amazing job. And so does Tim Roth, who is an acting powerhouse as usual. But this is also about like a past history and an old life and the paranoia that comes with past trauma and coming back. And also kind of a similar theme to Watcher.
Yes.
But this one, something is happening. And the main character, you're not exactly the audience for, right? Like she's keeping her cards close to the chest as well from the audience. And so it's a little bit more, I want to say adult, it's very adult horror, especially that ending.
Oh my God.
You know, and so this is kind of a surprise. And so if you get triggered by certain things, then, you know, gore or weird things having to do with things I'm not going to spoil. I guess I can't warn you.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of hard to not, because the ending kind of comes out of nowhere, right? And the entire movie is very, very fucking uncomfortable to watch. Like, I was squirmy the entire time just because, like, you're watching this woman sort of like revert to the things that she experienced in her trauma, right? And it's just so hard to fucking watch, but the acting is so good. It's brilliant. It draws you into it, right? This movie is coming up later on my list because I really fucking enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's pretty high on your list, I think.
I walked out of that movie giving it 5 stars. I stand by my 5-star rating. And, you know, at that film festival, you were supposed to mark like movies that you want to win or whatever, and like turn in your ballot or whatnot. And that was the one. I was like, I feel like this movie needs to be the top of this festival. I thought it was just fucking great.
Yeah.
I also feel like if you're talking about like Academy Award worthy performances.
Yeah, this would rise to the pile for me.
Yeah, this is full on Toni Collette Hereditary area, right? I feel like Rebecca Hall is not getting the dues that she's deserved at this point.
Yeah.
Like, she's just brilliant in everything that she's in. And
at least throw a Saturn at her. You know what I mean?
Something. A Golden Globe. I mean, my God. A People's Choice. Whatever. I don't care. I mean, like, give the woman some awards, because The Night House last year was toward the top of both of our lists, and we had nothing but excellent things to say about Rebecca Hall.
Yeah.
And here it is just the following year, and we're doing something very similar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, guys, go check out Resurrection for sure. It's on Shudder.
What's your number 7?
My number 7 is Hypochondriac.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit already.
Yeah,
so,
we did.
Excellent film. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is The Menu.
Okay, something that's coming up on my list as well.
Yeah, so I didn't expect this. I didn't expect it to be as horror adjacent as it is, and it is very much a horror movie in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know, and so it's like there's a very selective list of people who are invited to basically, you know, a very prestigious restaurant, an exclusive restaurant, and this guy is making everyone their food, and the menu tells a story. The menu of the movie tells a story, and the menu of the food menu tells a story. And this also has, of course, Cow Eyes.
Yes, Anya Taylor.
Anya Taylor-Joy. And Nicholas Hoult and John Leguizamo, which I always love seeing. And God, there's lots of people.
Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes, obviously. You know, he's the main character, the chef.
He's so good.
Yeah. And there's another character in there as well.
John Leguizamo's in this. I mean,
I mentioned him, but I mean, there's the woman, the wife of the senator.
Oh, Judith Light.
Yeah. What has she played?
Judith Light was in Who's the Boss? For
yes,
many
she
years.
was the boss. That's
yeah.
what I was like. I recognize her. Tony Danza? Where's Tony Danza?
The cast in this movie is really, really good.
Oh, excellent. I mean, it's just as excellent as the, you know, pre-prepared. I mean, it's just exclusive and perfect and prepared as the menu inside the movie.
So we talked about the trailer for this on a Shooting the Flames.
Yeah.
And just based on that trailer, I was like, I am down. I am ready for this fucking movie.
Of course, because you're like a licensed or certified chef. Or
yeah. I mean, I work in food service,
yeah.
You know, I've gone to culinary school and I understand what that world is like, you know, and the blind devotion to your chef. I mean, yes. Do you know how often I say that every fucking day?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was just in it for that. And also like Anya Taylor-Joy, I just love Cow Eyes. And I was ready for this movie. So I saw it in the theater opening weekend. I was there and I just fucking loved it. Like, I can't even like put into words how much I love this movie, from its structure to its acting to its not horror adjacency. It's a full on fucking horror movie.
I would agree. And I gave it a full 4.5 for me.
Like, I gave it 5 stars.
Pretty close. Like,
in fact, I think I gave more 5 stars this year than I have over any fucking year.
Yeah, the only problem I had with it, and we could deep dive this later,
is
like I really wanted the Ralph Fiennes character to. It was kind of hinted at that he had this kind of basic instinct-y kind of intellect, right? And it kind of falls apart a little bit there at the end, you know. And I really wanted everything, including her ending, Cow Eyes ending, to be part of the plan. And it didn't seem that way to me. And that's the only like nitpick I have with the story, because I really wanted to like go into that intellect, you know, but it's a near perfect movie for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a perfect movie for me. And we have to deep dive this sometime in the future, because I do want to talk about that intellect too, because I think he does have that kind of basic instinct intellect, but I think he has a foil in Anya Taylor-Joy's character, and that makes his plan completely impossible to do. She fucks it up for him. And this movie, again, like, I feel like there's a lot of comedy this year in horror, and I love it when we have some like comedic moments in horror movies, because I just like that feeling. And this movie was no exception. It made me laugh a lot. Like, I just really fucking enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
We're going to mention it again in a little bit.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is a movie called Bones and All.
Oh, a movie called Bones and All with Timothée Chalamet.
Yes, with the fucking
Luca
Chalamet,
Guadagnino,
who I love as a director for some reason, although his movies are almost always the same at this point. It's like a lot of exterior shots. It's very bucolic or whatever. But the man can make a fucking horror movie, including Call Me By Your Name, I guess, for some people. I mean, there's a cum-filled peach. Come on, if that's not horror,
that's horror adjacent.
It's horror adjacent. But this movie is, it's fucking gross, is what it is. It's gory, right? I mean, like, we're talking about cannibals. Like, you literally are watching people like chow down on a fucking body, but it's also incredibly heartfelt. Like, I really enjoyed the characters a lot. It's very long, and like parts of it I can see how like the general public would think are kind of a slog, but I just like this man's movies.
Yeah.
And I think that people should go and see it for sure. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is The Black Phone.
Okay, good. Oh, high on your list.
It is. Yeah, I actually go back and I look at my ratings, right? And I don't like emotionally number these. I order them by rating. So if there's like 3 4.5s or whatever, I have to make kind of an emotional rating. But that's how I construct my lists.
I try to do that as I watch them, and then like I do at the end of every year, I go and I'm like, no, this movie deserves to be higher than this one now that I've had like 2 months to think about it and so on. But good. I'm glad that movie's higher on your list than mine, because it definitely deserves to be there.
Yeah,
for sure.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 is a movie called The Batman.
The Batman.
A movie that I put off and put off and put off watching because of its length, its girthiness.
Yeah, I think it's near 3 hours.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Maybe a little over.
It's definitely it's close to an epic. It's the closest thing to an epic that Batman has gone, and you wouldn't expect it to be anyway. No. It's also the most David Finchian.
Oh, yes.
And most horror adjacent that any, especially with that intro and some of those moments throughout that film, where it's treating Batman as kind of like a horror movie villain.
And it does, and rightfully so. And it's treating the villains like horror movie villains, like times 10,
Yeah.
And I love it because it proves you right? When you're like, you need to watch this movie, you'll love it. And I'm like, but it's so long or whatever, right? And then I finally sit down and watch it. And I remember watching The Batman with you and just like having this fucking grin on my face the entire time, because it's such a well-made movie.
Really, the cinematography, I would have expected some sort of Oscar technical category nomination.
It got nominated for 3 Oscars today.
Okay. I would have really expected some sort of acting nod to Colin Farrell for his work as, like, I guess the Penguin, because he just completely disappears in that role. And it's not like a over-the-top cartoony Penguin, right? This is like a real-world gangster type of Christopher Nolan-esque villain.
Yes. And I feel like, if we're talking about like Academy Award worthiness or whatnot, out of 10 nominees for Best Picture, I feel like The Batman really deserves to be there. I thought that it was an excellent movie. It's another 5-star movie for me.
Didn't expect that either.
Yeah. And so like, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I didn't expect to be scared as much as I was. And it really is just like a really taut comic book horror movie. And I feel like, based on our conversation on Batman Returns just a couple months ago, or last month in December, and talking about this, like, Batman is more than horror adjacent. I feel like all of its entries,
the potential is there.
Yes.
And this is like this, there's a reason, like, people say it's kind of David Fincher, because it kind of looks and feels like that, because it kind of plays like Seven.
It does. It looks like Seven.
Yeah.
And it's such a good movie. And I'm so thankful that I watched it. Out of everything that's in my top 10, the movie that I wanted to rewatch the most this year was The Batman.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched it probably 3 times at this point, just showing people, because it's such a good movie to show people on a good system.
Yeah.
Because the sound is so amazing and the looks are so, there's some of the most cinematic moments in all of cinema from this year in The Batman. That car chase and just a lot of like, just sitting with Gotham and sitting with Batman moments that are just really, really well shot, and they sound really, really great. So I don't know, like, I can't tell enough people, like, if you haven't checked it out, if you're not like a comic book movie fan or something, this does not feel like a comic book movie
at all. because I'm genuinely not a comic book fan, you know, like some of the movies are good, but I mean, like I said before, I've like suffered from a little Marvel fatigue, which I'm slowly getting out of, you know. And,
I mean, I know I'm getting into.
And so now I'm ready to go back and start watching the things that I've missed, and you're like, no, but that's fucking hilarious, of course. But no, the Batman is really, really fucking amazing, and I feel like everybody should watch this one as well.
Yeah.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Adult Swim's Yule Log.
It was so close to making my top 10. I think it's number 11.
Now, like, I really can't say, like, with these other movies that they came out of nowhere, because Yule Log really did come out of nowhere. There was literally no trailer. There was no, and that was by intention. They just put this on TV, and it was like Adult Swim's Yule Log, and it literally is a fireplace just playing, you know, the fire or whatever, and it slowly kind of pans out, and you see things going on, and people are watching this, kind of like this director did Too Many Cooks, if you've seen that on YouTube from years ago. You know, and a couple of other things he did. If you watched Mandy, he did the Cheddar Goblin commercial.
I love the Cheddar. That's the best part of Mandy.
Oh, Cheddar Goblin. It is the best part. It's the only good part of Mandy. But Adult Swim Yule Log is just like, it's a horror movie fans movie for horror movies.
Exactly.
You know, it's like a love letter to horror movie fans, right? And not many other people. But it has everything. And I just cannot spoil this.
We can't.
I cannot spoil this movie, but it is definitely in my top 5 of the year, and is probably the most fun, solidly, of all of the movies on my list.
It is a lot of fun.
And there's a lot of fun movies this year.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm kind of surprised it didn't crack my top 10 because I really enjoyed it so much.
I was disappointed to see that.
It was so close. It was so close, but this was such a good year, you know? And so even a movie as fun and as like tailor-made for horror fans as Yule Log, it didn't quite make it. But I'm glad that you love it so much. In fact, like I wanted to watch it and I was just like, okay, I'm hearing all this buzz. I'm reading things on social media about it. And then you're like, you need to watch this movie. It's crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and I even told someone I was watching it. I was like, oh, I'm watching this Adult Swim horror movie. And they're like, question mark. I'm like, yeah, no one knows this movie exists. It's on fucking HBO Max, for crying out loud. Yeah. Like, it's just fucking bonkers.
Yes. And one of the biggest disappointments of this year for me was like seeing that you had added it to your watched list. And I was like, damn it, I really wanted to show him that myself. I should have said that, because I would have loved to see that just like with you.
I was like freaking out and having the best time. So I'll paint a little picture for you. Okay. If I may. I had taken a gummy earlier for another movie. And so my gummy was like already set, right? And I was like, all right, I'm just going to move on to Yule Log. We're going to see how crazy this is.
Yeah.
And as the movie kept going on, I was getting louder and louder and louder with my comments to myself. I was just like, what? Or what the fuck? And I was just like, by the end of the movie, I was having such a good fucking time because I didn't know what was going to come next. And that doesn't happen a lot with horror movies.
You cannot fucking guess what's going to happen next in this movie because it just...
Because there's no way.
Yeah.
Because it has everything, you know? Like if you have loved at least one horror movie in your life, you will love Yule Log. I mean, that's it.
It's got everything. It's got a fire. It's got a wooden log.
It's got stuff, things. Just go watch it. We can't spoil this. We will spoil lots of movies, but we cannot spoil Adult Swim's Yule Log.
Right. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is a movie that I don't think you liked near as much as I did, and it's a movie called Hatching.
I liked it. It ended up being... Where did it end up being? It's my number 27. Was I?
Yeah, far lower on your list than mine.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie, and I can't quite tell you why. I found the characters really good. I really identified with that younger girl, right?
Yeah, I didn't.
That's queer to say, but
at all.
I don't know. I felt for her. I felt bad for her. And there are lots of movies that I watched this year about like kids being in like bad situations.
The Innocents.
Like The Innocents. Yeah. Which I also really liked.
But I'm surprised that didn't break your top 10.
I moved it out because I watched half of it over again and I was just like, okay, this movie's depressing and
really depressing. And there's some like, do they kill the dog.com or whatever the fuck. It's actually a cat and don't.
And I mean, it's like The Innocents itself is like, kid on kid violence or whatever. And I kind of liked the comic book aspect of that movie kind of like by proxy. But I mean, I moved it out of my top 10, but Hatching is good. I feel like we see this girl who is just doing her best in life and feels completely out of place in her family and is essentially like mothering a monster that is herself, right? I mean, like, there's a lot to unpack in that movie, I think, after multiple viewings. I really dug the creature. I thought it was cool. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed all of it.
I didn't like the creature.
I know you did.
That was lame.
That makes me sad. I thought it was neat. I liked it. I liked it more when it was bird-like, but
yeah.
I mean, like, as it changes into more of her, it's still kind of like fucking gnarly sometimes. And I don't know, there's something about watching a character have to deal with the duality of something like that and essentially have to try to like kill herself in a way. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. I thought it was really, really good. I know that it was on like some other pundits, like top 10s and things like that. And I think that's deserving, but I think this movie is probably a little more polarizing than I thought.
Yeah. Either will be into it or you won't.
Yeah. I think that's probably the case with this one.
Yeah.
So what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Batman.
Oh, again, higher on your list and a good spot for that. I feel like this movie has got to be somewhere in everyone's horror top 5 for this.
Yeah. And it's just horror adjacent enough to be solidly on this list.
While we're talking about that, I think one of the best parts about 2022, and I think we've already mentioned this a little bit, is that we got a lot of really good horror adjacency. And I think that filmmakers are now like sort of leaning into horror a lot more, not being afraid to be more horror-esque in some of their work, right? And I think the Batman is a really good example of that. And I think we've gotten a lot of that like across the board, even in like comic book films, like we said, comedies, even like dramatic work about like an expression of mental illness, right? Like a lot of things on my list, I think people would consider horror adjacent or even not horror at all.
Yeah.
But that makes me happy. Well, my number 3 is something that we've already talked about as well, and that's Resurrection. So
yeah, really high up on your list.
Really high. I really, really fucking dug this movie. I think under other circumstances, if the next 2 movies on my list didn't exist this year, it'd be number 1. And for the longest time after that film festival that we saw in June, it was number 1 all the way up until like...
Yeah, you really fell in love with this movie.
I really did. And I was expecting high stuff from it. I was really expecting the community to latch on. There's
nothing better than having really high expectations and then being rewarded for those expectations.
I really wanted other people to like talk about this movie, and I feel like no one really is.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad.
I don't even know where it's playing.
It's on Shudder.
Shudder? Okay.
But yeah, Resurrection was really, really good. And it was number 1 for a huge chunk of my year.
God, I just miss the days when people just could go to their local like Blockbuster and pick these up. And if they don't have an account, they just say, well, screw it. It's not worth a monthly fee. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like these times they're a changing.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to see good films.
I don't know. Maybe you can rent it on Amazon. I don't know.
Probably, I guess. We'll see. Anyway. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is a film called You Won't Be Alone.
I watched this with you. You showed this to me.
Yes. And I'm probably, it's there's one thing always on my list that like no one else likes but me. Like last year it was The Green Knight, and everyone was like, And this year it's You Won't Be Alone. And I just felt like this movie is very, very special. And it's really like the director grew up, he's American, I think, but he has like Macedonian roots. And so he really wanted to show like the life of his like grandparents and how it was and how special that land was before it disappears. And so he wanted to show like the lives of these people, but through the lens of this horror movie. And so You Won't Be Alone is about witches, right? Mm-hmm. And so these witches are basically a different species, right? They can become animals, they can become other people, and they can live their lives out potentially as, a little girl or a man or a woman or anything, a dog, and they can live multiple lives. And this is a girl who had been kind of cooped up in a cave to protect herself from this witch. The witch gets her anyway. And so she is experiencing the world, and she's also the audience for the first time. Every drop of water, every tree branch, every babbling brook, is hers to explore and experience for the first time. And then living her life as a girl and a woman and a man and experiencing all of those different types of lives for the first time, but through the lens of horror, but also kind of hope and wonder, is so special and unique to me that I could not put it any lower on my list.
I feel like this is somewhere in the middle of the movies that I watched this year. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautiful, right? It was a really well-made and like pretty movie to watch, I feel like this is one that I need to watch again, right? Like some other movies that we've talked about in our top 10, I feel like a second watch would add a lot more to it, right? And this is just one of the ones I need to watch again.
Yeah.
I feel like I would appreciate it a lot more having seen it once and thought about it and then going to watch it again. So,
it's definitely my pretentious placement in this list.
I don't think it's pretentious though. I think it's an accessible movie. I just think there's a lot going on in it.
I thought it was going to be Crimes of the Future, but that's literally at the bottom of the list.
Hold on. We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is it's a fucking Marvel movie of all things, and it's Werewolf by Night. Yes, Queen.
This movie, it's not a short film.
Nope.
And it's not a long film.
It's not a feature film either.
It's like a short feature.
Yes.
It's like 55 minutes or an hour.
Yeah,
long.
I think it's just a little over an hour.
So it's like barely the shortest Disney animated features are like an hour and 2 minutes or an hour 10 minutes or something. So this is around there, but it tells a complete story in a way, right? They could have had like a kind of a middle part, or a beginning part to this story, but who cares, because it was so well done. And this is by first-time director Michael Giacchino, who we all know from doing all of his scores for things like Doctor Strange or all of the fucking Pixar movies, including Up, and just The Incredibles and a bunch of sci-fi and genre films and everything across the board Michael Giacchino's done. The entire series of Lost, and so he's a first-time director here, and he is masterful.
Yes.
And this is just an incredibly well-paced, incredibly well-written, incredibly well-cast, just a great-looking movie. So much style, a lot of substance. I was laughing. I was excited. Beginning to end, it's just perfect.
I completely agree with you.
And he also did the music, obviously.
I was not expecting to love this at all, right? So the trailer was really, really good and very intriguing. And it came out at just the right time. And I was just like, all right, I know it's fucking Marvel. I'm getting out of my Marvel slog. I'm just going back and like rewatching some of these things. I was like, I'm just going to watch this. And by the time that little over an hour, however long it was over, I was like, this movie's fucking brilliant. I mean, it just is. It pays so much homage to horror, and in a weird, like, comic book way, right? These are characters that people can recognize from comic books, right? But they're shown in a different kind of light. And it's just, I don't know. It was so good. The acting was great. And it was just really pretty to look at.
I saw that trailer and I was blown away, right? And it's got all those sound bites like, "Y'all wanna see this, darling?" All those really great like one-liners that this movie has. And then to actually watch this movie and it be just as good or better than the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And leave it to a fucking composer to light a tuba on fire and blast it on screen. It's great.
I just fucking loved this movie so much. And I mean, it's a really, really good time. And I feel like horror fans should love this. Well, I feel like anybody should love this, really. It's super accessible. It's kid friendly, I mean, this is gateway horror right here.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit more adult than Gateway.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a little like a tiptoe beyond Gateway, but I mean, like when kids get to a certain age, even before they're preteens, I feel like this is something that they could watch. And it's a really good way for families to like start a horror bond if you wanted to do something like that. This is a really special movie that I don't think that we're going to see something the likes of anytime soon. I think this is a once in a lifetime, a once in a Marvel time kind of movie. And, however it fits into the universe or whatnot remains to be seen. But if they branch out and use some of this in other Marvel movies, you better fucking believe.
Well, as far as I've read, they basically gave Michael Giacchino a blank check and said, "Hey, we believe in you. You've done so much for us. You get to direct basically your choice of project for Disney Plus." Mm-hmm. And he chose this, not from something that was presented to him. He went out and decided that this is what he wanted to do specifically, right? Based on like Swamp Thing or Man Thing, right? And he constructed this and the rest is history because it's amazing. And I'm really hoping that there's talk of like expanding, doing a series on these characters and I love it. And the style and everything else. And I'm hoping that he gets his due.
I hope so, because I have such a boner for this movie.
Yeah,
Just
it's my number one.
Is it?
Yes.
So I don't have to ask then.
Yeah, and I feel kind of guilty because it's so short, and it's not expected, but it was like remained one of my only 5-star movies.
My number one is something we've already talked about as well.
Yeah,
and that's The Menu.
Of course.
Yep, because I just cannot stop talking about this movie. I have literally told everyone that I know to watch this movie. So my mom watched it and she was just like, I didn't think it was that good. And I wanted to shake her like a British nanny and be like, why? I was like, you obviously didn't get it. Let's sit down together and watch it. Let's watch it again.
I was worried they were going to do it with me for Crimes of the Future.
No, I mean, the thing is that, and also listeners, with these lists, we have to say that these are just our opinions, obviously. Whether you agree with us on our top 10s or you have your own, that's the fun about talking about movies, is that you may or may not like something that someone else does, but it doesn't mean you have to tell them they're wrong for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so The Menu is just a really, really good movie. And it's a perfect movie for me. In fact, my top 5 from the Batman, Hatching, Resurrection, Werewolf by Night, and The Menu were all 5 stars.
Oh, wow.
Every single one. I gave a lot of 5 stars this year.
Okay.
So piecing these together to choose my favorites out of those 5-star movies. And Bones and All was almost a 5-star. It was so close until the very, very end.
Wow. So my only 5-star was Werewolf by Night.
Really?
Yeah. I gave The Menu, The Black Phone, Adult Swim Yule Log, The Batman, and You Won't Be Alone 4.5 stars each.
It's close. They're so close to 5, you know? But I really feel like 2022 horror was phenomenal. We were treated to a lot of good horror-esque, horror-adjacent movies.
And still have some to watch.
Same.
Yeah.
And I really hope that moving forward, 2023, will be equally as good. I mean, that remain to be seen, but I feel like 2022 was a kind of a year where we're coming out of pandemic. People are starting to go to the theater again. We had lots of really good mainstream tentpole theater release horror movies and an excellent choice of things that are streaming.
1 or 2 of those were good.
1 or 2. There was a lot, I feel. I mean, even movies like Smile, which I didn't expect to like, I kind of liked, I thought it was good.
Smile and Fall and Orphan First Kill, the new Scream movie and the new Halloween movie, they're all kind of middling movies, but they were still a good time.
They were a good time. And they were decent releases.
Nope was one of the better one of those.
Nope was excellent.
Barbarian.
Almost made my top 10. Barbarian was also really good. Close to that. And we haven't even talked about, do you want to do some special mentions before we get into the ones we didn't like?
Yeah, I feel like there's special mentions that are kind of in a different category of themselves. For instance, would be Mad God. Right? Yeah. This is the year Mad God was released. And we actually watched that at the Overlook Film Festival for the first time.
I really was expecting Mad God to be in your top 10.
Yeah, and it almost was. It's number 16 on my list because it's just, it is what it is for me. It's a movie that's 30 years in the making by Phil Tippett. And this is his magnum opus, his masterpiece, but at the same time, would I go back and watch that as often as these other top 10s? It's a little stomach churning. It's really amazing, but I own the vinyl for it, for the music. There's so many special mentions this year. Like we already mentioned, Nope, There's Something to Say. Keke Palmer was amazing in Nope.
She really
standout performance.
Mm-hmm.
Barbarian was a surprise. There's 2 movies in that. There's a big surprise with Justin Long, and I don't want to spoil too much. Fall was probably the most white knuckle movie I've seen in a long time.
I still need to see that. I really wanted to watch it.
My feet were sweating. And I was watching that with my sister, and literally both of us had soaked through our socks, and our hands were just sweaty, just watching that movie because it is so white knuckle.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies that I feel deserve to be really, really close to a top 10. I really enjoyed Don't Worry, Darling a lot.
I haven't seen it yet,
and I wasn't expecting to, the trailer was interesting and you could tell that it's kind of dystopian, right? But the twists and turns of that movie
seem very Stepford Wives to me.
It's a little Stepford Wives. It's a lot of things, actually. There's a lot going on in that movie. And, Miss Florence Pugh is amazing as always, and I don't know. It was I really enjoyed that movie. Barbarian, you saw way before I did. It took me a minute until it was on HBO Max before I watched it.
Yeah.
But talk about jaw agape.
I saw that in the theater, yeah.
I know. I really fucking wish that I did after watching it because some twists in that. I was just the fuck? But yeah, I don't know. And then I guess some of my favorite like one of my favorite performances this year came from Mia Goth, sort of like playing the same kind of role in X and Pearl.
And soon Maxine.
And I was really expecting X at least to be like very, very high, if not in my top 10. And it ended up being 14 on my list. And I still think that X is a really, really good movie. And I think that Mia Goth does a really good job in it.
This is a great year for Mia Goth and Ty West because they were able to push those two movies out, and Pearl wasn't really planned.
Nope.
Right? It was kind of dug onto the end of X, and so they were able to release both. And we kind of, in a previous episode, maybe a Shooting the Flames a couple of months ago, we were thinking, hey, maybe he's going to release Maxine before the end of the year, and there'll be some sort of Guinness World Book record.
I really wanted him to. He didn't quite make it.
No.
But it's coming out soon, I think within the next like month or so.
Yeah.
And I really want to see the conclusion of this because like Mia Goth has come out and said that like Maxine takes these two movies and like ratchets it up to like 11. Like apparently it's supposed to be like just nutty.
I'm a star.
I liked Pearl. I think I gave Pearl 4 stars. I liked it. I thought it was
I like Pearl and I liked X. Mm-hmm. I liked X more than I liked Pearl, I think.
I did too. Like Pearl, I think is 14. No, X is 14 and Pearl is a little bit lower than that. For, I don't even know, for reasons, but Mia Goth in both those movies is just really good. Probably in Pearl, she's a little bit better because she's getting a little bit more room and she's kind of the actual star that she wants to be. But I don't know, that movie was like a Technicolor nightmare and it was good.
Oh, it seemed very Technicolor. I love that. I love that you mentioned that.
It was an excellent, excellent film.
One movie that is on a lot of indie top 10s is called Hellbender. And it very nearly made my top 10. And you still haven't seen this.
No, that was on my short list of things to watch leading up to this episode.
Yeah.
And due to technical difficulties, I could not watch it. And so that's the one movie that I'm kicking myself for not having seen before we recorded this episode.
And that might be the one that I have you watch that you've missed. What would be one that I've missed that you would have me watch? Would that be Don't Worry, Darling?
Yeah, or like Bones and All. I think under like the right circumstances, because it's a long movie, you know.
I don't mind long movies at all.
I know you don't, and
I binge watch things all the time. I just pause when I need to go pee. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me.
I think I had some trepidation just based on conversations that we've had about that man as a director, you know. And I don't know that you would feel the same way about this.
No, I think he's an amazing director.
Okay, you just didn't like that one.
I just don't like his movies.
Yeah.
No, I love them. I love them from a aesthetic standpoint.
Okay.
And how they're put together. Suspiria is an amazing film. I just don't really like it that much, but I love it. I don't know. I have a weird relationship with that movie. And then Call Me by Your Name, I did not really connect with. I just couldn't connect to that. Yeah. For whatever reason, I couldn't connect to it.
You're not alone in that. I've heard a lot of people say the exact same thing to me. But I think that's probably the one. I feel like you would like Don't Worry, Darling. You know what I mean? But I feel like you would like Bones and All more from like a filmmaker's perspective.
Yeah.
So, but no, maybe one day we'll sit down, we'll watch Hellbender, and then we'll do a double feature, and I'll show you that fucking 8-hour whatever Bones and All.
Yeah.
It's a long movie.
So do you want to talk about some of your biggest disappointments?
Yeah, I guess it's the part of the episode where you have to do some shitting on things, right?
Yeah, and I'm not talking about just bad movies. I'm talking about things that I had high expectations for. I really wanted to be good that weren't.
Yes, and that's it. Because some of the movies that are on my biggest disappointments list are not terrible movies.
Yeah.
You know, they're just not what I wanted them to be.
Yeah, I've already shit on Crimes of the Future.
I didn't.
But that's one of my biggest disappointments because it's Cronenberg,
I was just checking my list for the year, and Crimes of the Future is 11 and Yule Log was 12. So it really almost cracked my top 10.
Yeah. You probably won't like did you read my review?
I sure did. Which is why I was expecting Mad God to somehow like find its way into your top 10. But, I don't know. I liked Crimes of the Future. I liked it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I had a good time watching it. I thought it was like quintessential Cronenberg, but so quintessential that it was almost like Cronenberg making a parody of himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was the most Cronenberg of all Cronenberg things.
I was bored.
I was not.
I was so bored.
Like I really loved it in a way
I was
that
shocked to see the budget of that movie. I was shocked to see that it was $25 million. I was like, they could have done this for like $1 million. Let me go check this out. 25 million made 3 million. And I was just like,
they had to pay for Kristen Stewart. Is what it is.
And Vigo. I don't know. But it's, if you're a fan of Cronenberg, watch it. you know?
I think that's why I liked it so much. You know what I mean? Like, it's not anything special, you know, and I've seen better Cronenberg movies, but it's been a long time since I've got to see a new Cronenberg movie like that. Maybe a lot of this is just like nostalgia boner for a director that I like, right? A boundary pushing director.
I was angry because I think I was angry because of the situation. Like, I've been through a lot lately at work and things like that. And I was like, I gave you like 4 movies to watch. I was like, I have 4 movies on my list. What do I prioritize? I only have time for one. And this is the one you gave me. And I was like, okay, I'm expecting a lot. This is going to be good. And then like it just wasn't. And I was like, maybe I should have just spent time like doing a punching bag instead, you know, because afterwards I was just like, 1 star. This is what a pile of shit.
I don't think it's a 1-star movie.
No, probably not. No, I almost gave it 2 stars because of the cinematography alone.
I think
and the acting is really good.
The woman who plays the main female character, the artist, right? She's what is her name? Is like Lisa Dew or something. She's a French actress. She's really good in this movie. Like, she's excellent in this movie.
I had trouble with a lot of the dialogue and everything too. But anyway, we're talking way too much about this movie. Another big disappointment was from Alex Garland.
Oh yeah, which I was expecting to love.
Men. I was expecting to love the shit out of it because we're such huge like fangirls of Alex Garland and everything that he's done with like written, you know, Ex Machina and Sunshine and, you know, everything else that he's done, you know, and Annihilation and
talk about like a trailer that, I mean, like, I really enjoyed this trailer. I was ready to watch this movie for that. And then like when you sit down and finally watch this and you see where he goes with this, and I'm like, I don't understand why you're doing any of it. Like, it wasn't a good time. I didn't enjoy it.
I love slow-paced, high symbolic, like layers of meaning that you have to search for, not accessible. The Green Knight is one of those, but it's there, and there's a lot of meaning, at least for me, because this is subjective. When I watch things like Men or Crimes of the Future, I think this is like pretentious to the point of huge fault, you know, and it's so layered in, and it's so, you know, decadent in a way that I just want to like vomit. That's how I felt about Men. I mean,
yeah, there are parts of Men that I like, but a vast majority of it, and it's including the ending of the movie, I just don't, you know, and I'm just like, maybe I don't get it, you know, or something. And I'm perfectly fine saying that, you know, but that movie, not great. I think like Jessie Buckley is brilliant.
Oh, of course.
You know, she always is. And I think that's the only good
And so
thing.
is that actor who played Frankenstein's monster on
he was good in this too.
Yeah.
The acting was great.
Yeah.
And it looked really good too. And it had potential. It just did not live up to it, in my opinion.
No. Another big disappointment for me was Hellraiser.
Agreed.
I think the monsters and Pinhead have never been better in a way.
Yeah.
But the movie itself was not good.
Nope.
No.
It was a fucking slog. I didn't feel good. I actively didn't like any of
it felt like a bad X-Files episode where it just was non-committal, you know?
I didn't like any of the non-Cenobite characters.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a fucking cardinal sin for me in movies, is that if I can't somehow find an emotional attachment to a character, either good or bad, then I will not like the movie.
I cared about the brother and they killed him off, and then they didn't bring him back.
He wasn't there long enough for me to care about him.
I know.
You know?
Another disappointment for me was Scream and Halloween Ends, you know, big tentpole franchise movies. Halloween Ends was fine, and I need to re-examine that after my, you know, I think it's gonna suffer a little bit from like the Prometheus Covenant effect, where you have all these expectations, and then you watch it years later, you know, without those expectations, and I think that'll be better, and that's much higher on my list than like say Scream. Because it just fell flat to me. It wasn't bad. Everything fell flat to me.
I enjoyed the latest Scream movie, Scream 5, and I'm really looking forward to Scream 6.
That looks better.
It does.
Just based on the trailers.
But I thought that, because I had the lowest of expectations for Scream 5, and it turned out to be a lot funnier and a lot gorier and just different than what I expected. And so like it was sort of like middle of the road as far as like my overall list of 2022. Halloween Ends, the exact same thing. After Halloween Kills, I expected the biggest pile of dog shit from the end of this like new trilogy. And when I started watching the movie, I was just like, okay, I really fucking dig this. You know what I mean? It was not at all what I was expecting.
It felt contrarian to a fault rather than pretentious.
And I guess I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm okay with a little contrarianism, but
and we're going to defy expectations just to do that for the sake of it.
I mean, fine. Then at least I'll like your movie. But I thought that Halloween Ends was really good. Not enough to put it in my top 10 or even my top 20. But I mean, I liked it a lot more than what I was expecting. And that just makes it a surprise instead of a disappointment to me. One of the movies that I was looking forward to for a long period of time, because I knew they were making it, was the remake of Firestarter. And there was all this buzz about how it's going to be more like the novel. And I was like, good, bring this remake on or whatever. And it turned out to be just fucking terrible. It is the last movie on my list. It is number 41 for the year. Like, it's just not, it's
just
not
watch
good.
Midnight Special.
Yeah, much better movie. Different, but yeah, like Firestarter, this remake just is abysmal. Also, I kept hearing all these people, and this movie is on a lot of people's top 10s, like a lot of like critics.
Really?
No, not Firestarter. It's the next one I'm going to talk about. It's called We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Okay.
And I kept hearing all these. It's a really highly rated on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's talking about its weird narrative structure. And I was like, this is my thing, you know? And so I watched this early in the year when I could. And it is just a shit-tacular, boring, stupid movie. I would barely even call it horror. It's like, I don't know. It's like someone took some weird internet challenge and like, let's just turn that into a movie.
It sounds like you're talking about Skinamarink.
And God, y'all, just wait till Up in Flames 2023. Because you know what? We're going to save that. I have some things to say about Skinamarink. The thing is, I feel like I'm in the minority on this one, maybe. But what a piece of shit that movie is, too. It's almost exactly the same. They're very experimental, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with experimental film. But at least make a fucking movie, you know?
Well, that director for Skinamarink never intended it to be in theaters or anything like that. Like, it just blew up.
Yeah. Well, and now it's made like 8 times its budget or something like that in 1 week. Yeah. I mean, this is what shows you what marketing and word of mouth can do, you know? But, that movie.
It got famous on TikTok, and that's how it...
That movie makes me want to die.
Well, speaking of movies that make me want to die, I really had high expectations for Robert Eggers, one of our favorite directors from neo-horror movement, which is The Witch, and that's The Northman.
I haven't watched it yet.
And I wouldn't.
And I haven't watched it yet based on comments like that you've made this year.
It's a slog.
Yeah.
And you don't care about the characters, really. And, you know, I'd rather just go watch fucking Hamlet, you know? Mm-hmm. One of the many adaptions, and this is one of them, you know, and it looks great. You know, Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing. Cow-Eyes is great as usual. She's the best part of this whole fucking movie, but she's barely in it, really, comparatively. And there's some really cool gore, for sure. But you have to, those are like diamonds in the rough of like a 3.5 hour, like, it feels like 3.5 hours at least. So, I don't know. It's 137 minutes. Oh my God.
I will.
It's not 3 hours. It's like just over 2.
I will fucking watch it. You know, eventually. It's just like after you did, and I was like, "Oh, you watched it," and then I was expecting you to say good things about it, and you didn't. So, I think the last disappointment that I had this year has to do with LGBT horror. And I mean, we saw things like Hypochondriac, and technically, we watched a movie called Swallowed this year that is being released in 2023. So, like, people will be able to see it in a few weeks.
It's not already out?
No, it's just
not out on Shudder or anything?
No, it's just not coming out.
Huh.
But I was really looking forward to watching They/Them.
I don't know how much I was looking forward to that.
I mean, I liked the concept. I thought a horror movie in a gay conversion camp, you know what I mean? I was just like, that's some real life fucking horror right there.
They/Them?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Dumb.
I hate it so much.
It just wasn't a good movie. Like, no. I didn't like any of the gay characters. I was just like, oh my God, you can kill them now, you know? And they didn't even do that. It took their sweet time like killing people. Not a good movie.
Fucking Bacon, what are you doing?
I know.
He's been everywhere this year though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him, and like next year I think Nick Cage has got a lot of shit coming out too. So.
Yeah, he's playing Dracula. I've seen that trailer.
I know, in Renfield. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the TV a little bit. I haven't seen nearly enough of it. I think I saw the new American Horror Story.
I watched that.
What was that? I forget. What was it about?
New York. It was
New York was what the gays. Yeah. Which like ended really well, kind of.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it from start to finish, actually.
Yeah, I was like, this like last 2-parter episode could like win some Emmys.
The very, very last episode when they were showing like the stages of HIV, right? And sort of this like from one character's perspective was just fucking amazing.
Yeah, going through time in the 80s.
Yes.
With
and beyond.
Going on. And it was like done to like a music video. And it was done really, really artfully and kind of respectfully in a way. But
I was
not
weeping.
like, yeah, it was really, really good. And that's when I told you to watch it. So that was really, really good. But there were 3 big adaptions as I see it this year, right? And that's Midnight Club, Rings of Power, and Interview with a Vampire, you know? And some of those are horror adjacent. Some of those are fully horror. Really only one of those is horror adjacent. I guess that would be Ring of Power. Yeah. And so I had really high expectations. And so my expectations after watching these kind of flip-flopped. I did not expect things to shake out as they did because we are huge Flana fans. Yep. And the Midnight Club was much more Mike Flanagan than it was Christopher Pike. And so I was very disappointed with that. With that series, because they really, really downplayed everything that Christopher Pike would have in that book and other books, and kind of wasted the potential there, in my opinion, having read those books. And it's always tough being the reader of the original novel versus seeing something fresh. So you have a different perspective on it, I'm sure.
I do. I really enjoyed the Midnight Club. I wouldn't say that I loved it, but I would say the majority of the episodes, like I felt really connected to. I felt emotionally involved with a lot of the characters. And I don't have that hindsight of having read the book. I've started it now, though. You'll be happy to know. Okay. So, I mean, maybe by the time I finish the book, I will have changed my opinion. But I thought that it was a decent show. And this is coming from someone who, it takes me a while to like really sit down and watch episodic things. Like I'm just not that kind of guy. It takes me months and months or even a year sometimes to like sit down and watch and finish something. And in that vein, it took me like over 2 weeks to finish the Midnight Club. So,
well, there's something that all 3 of these adaptations have in common, and it's where these writers, in some way, shape, or form, for better or worse, think they know better than the original authors.
Okay, yeah.
Flanagan thinks he knows better than Christopher Pike. Certainly the showrunners of Rings of Power, and basically in some quotes that they've said, they think they know better than Tolkien, which is a high crime in my opinion.
I know.
And, it's a great fantasy show, but it's not Tolkien, right? So do with that what you will. And then Interview with a Vampire just fucking slammed me. It is some of the best horror TV I've ever seen. And I did not expect that. I had pretty low expectations. And it just got kind of better and better and better. There's some moments where it's not perfect, obviously, but I ended up giving like Midnight Club a 3, Rings of Power like a 3.5, and Interview with the Vampire I gave like a full 5 stars. Jesus. Because it's just really, really, really great television, and it's just the atmosphere is amazing. Their casting has been amazing, and the changes that they made kind of make sense in a way for the most part, not everything, but they're adding layers versus it's something they're adding versus taking away. You know what I mean? And I don't like how they're kind of like split one book out into, I expected them to get through a full book in this season, and it's basically half a book.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but you really need to finish it. It's amazing from its whole. It's just an amazing show, and I'm so happy with it. I'm hearing horrible things about Mayfair Witches.
Oh,
that it really departs way too much.
I don't know anything about those books,
but I don't know anything about those books either because I never read the Mayfair Witches. But I'm going to watch it anyway because I want to throw my money at AMC's Immortal Universe because Interview with the Vampire is so good. And
I was going to say you're invested in the universe now, so
yeah.
Out of everything you were talking about, like obviously Interview with the Vampire is highest on my list to finish, right? I saw like the first 2 or 3 episodes with you, I think. Yeah. And the same with Rings of Power. And I was kind of enthralled with Rings of Power as we were watching it. But if I'm not watching it with you, I probably would not pick that up. You know what I mean? I have to say that I did like it more than some of the movies. And like that is just because I'm not a fan, really.
Or based on memory.
Yeah, And so like
it's probably been 20 years since you've seen those movies.
And I need to rewatch them for sure.
Oh, we will.
Oh, I know. I'm sure we'll have many a deep dive into the enchanted waters of Tolkien.
Gaze into my Palantir.
But yeah, I feel like in previous years we have had a longer conversation about like horror TV than we did in 2022.
Well, we've missed some things. We're not as good about that because we're trying to watch as many movies as we can.
Yeah, but I can't think of any other horror series that I missed this year that I really wanted to watch.
There were a few that we haven't seen.
Chucky is, I think, the only
Yeah,
one.
and it was really highly rated, and I really meant to see
I
some.
haven't seen either of the 2 seasons yet.
Yeah.
So, which is a fucking crime of the future. And
Crime of the past.
that's a crime of the
Now.
past. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I can't think of other like horror TV shows. that I
Oh
really
shit!
watch.
I forgot to mention several others. Because there's that Love, Death, and Robots was amazing this year.
Oh yeah,
A lot
it
of
really
horror.
was.
A lot of horror. Cabinet of Curiosities fucking came out.
Yeah.
And I thought that was hit or miss, but some of those were really good. Some of those episodes were some of the best horror of the year. Right. And maybe we'll have to do it like a top 10 at some point, because some of those episodes were amazing.
Yeah, there's some really good standouts in that one. You're right. There are more horror TV shows because I did watch Cabinet of Curiosities and
you watched Love, Death, and Robots new stuff, right?
yeah, we watched it together.
Yeah.
And it was, you're right. It was just like 95% horror. It was really good.
Yeah. And
That show gets better every fucking season though.
I originally had them in my top 10s list, and they were like taking up everything, all these individual episodes, because they're all like hour-long short movies, kind of like. And finally, I had to just take them out because it was just going to be like, and this is this episode of, it was going to be riddled in my top 10, and I was just like, no.
I mean, but with that being said, I still feel fine that Werewolf by Night has a place in our top 10.
Yeah, because it's so
super high.
standalone. It's not part of a show. It's his own thing.
Exactly. It's a fucking movie,
Yeah.
And I guess the same could be said of like Cabinet Curiosities, but I still felt like TV and not like a movie, whereas Werewolf by Night felt like a fucking movie.
Yeah.
So, well, it wouldn't be an Up in Flames episode if we did not look forward, if we didn't gaze into the Palantir of 2023 and talk about some of the movies that are coming out this year. Some of them I am looking forward to. Some of them I could probably just let die on the street somewhere. So
Yeah. Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool will come out this weekend at the time of this recording. And this is a Brandon Cronenberg movie. And I had high hopes for Possessor.
No.
Didn't like it. I was dashed. And so I hope I'm giving him a second chance. I hope that he does not do the same thing. Because if he is all fucking talk and no like output, then I think I might be done with him.
Yep.
So
Next up is Knock at the Cabin,
and
which I am really looking forward to. And this is M. Night Shyamalan.
yes, this is maybe the first like Shyamalan movie I've been looking forward to in quite some time.
Yeah. So,
Probably because I've read the novel.
okay.
And based on the trailers that I've seen, it doesn't seem like they're changing a lot from the novel, and that makes me very happy.
And he's a very competent director. So
yeah. So I feel like this is going to be a good one.
Does the book have a twist at the end?
It does have a twist. There's
Well, there
many
you go.
twists. There's twists throughout the book.
Okay.
So this is like M. Night Shyamalan blowing his twist load. Also coming out this year, finally, since we've been talking about it, I feel like for fucking ever, is Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey.
I'd rather watch Cocaine Bear.
Which I'm super looking forward to. 2 bears, 2 different movies, whatever. I'm still going to watch Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey.
It's really going to be our year of the bear.
Year of the bear. It's not Year of the Rabbit, my ass. Year of the Bear. Cocaine Bear? Fuck yes. Like the day that it opens, I don't care if we go to a fucking midnight showing the night before. We're going to see that fucking movie and I'm going to be fucking stoned. Scream 6, we've already talked about a little bit in this episode.
Yeah, the teaser was good. The trailer gave away way too much. It felt like I watched the movie.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens, but hopefully I'm wrong. And
I was still intrigued,
Yeah.
in a way. I mean, I feel like we said the same thing about Scream 5. We were like, oh, the trailer gave too much away. And then I watched the movie and I was like, it's not what I expected. I liked it a lot more, So hopefully this and also I love it when horror franchises just randomly go to New York. I'm like, it's like one of my favorite tropes. I'm just like, come on, bring it. Ari Aster's new movie, Beau is Afraid, is coming out, and he had described it as sort of a comedy, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a comedy
trailer
at
is all over the place. It looks like 15 movies mashed together.
I know. I don't know what to expect. This man is insane.
Yeah. Evil Dead Rise, I'm on the fence for.
I loved the trailer.
It's good.
I thought the trailer was excellent. It's very.
I think I sent you the link and I was like, holy shit.
It's very Sam Raimi. I am here for it. I'm glad that it's getting a theatrical release and not going straight to streaming because it seems like something I want to go see in the theater.
Yeah.
So
And we have the Exorcist remake. Is that really coming out in 2023?
Yeah, in October.
God damn.
I know. I don't know. And it's not even a remake. It's supposed to be a direct sequel to the original.
But they're going to call it The Exorcist, right?
Yeah, they're calling it The Exorcist.
Stupid. Just like The Thing.
Just like he called it Halloween when he made
Halloween.
this. He's doing another fucking trilogy.
I hate that. I'd be more interested in Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot has been shelved until now. They're saying that it's coming out in 2023. It was supposed to come out in 2022.
Is it going to be like a TV thing or is it an actual movie?
No, it's a movie.
Okay.
And it's apparently a very faithful adaptation of the novel.
Seems like something Flanagan could have done.
Probably. But this movie needs to come out. And right now it's slated for sometime toward the fall. So,
okay.
We also have The Strangers, which is the first in a new trilogy of movies based on that original film, The Strangers, that scares the shit out of me to this day. And anytime there's talk of doing like a sequel or something new with that property, I just want to die. And I don't know. I mean, like, The Strangers 2, Pray at Night is slowly growing on me. I've seen it a couple times now, and maybe this one will too, but I don't know why they're making a remake already of this movie. It seems slapdash and stupid.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is The Boogeyman, which is a Stephen King story.
Based on a short story, a really scary short story, in my opinion. And this was supposed to go directly to Hulu. This is why I added it to the list. It was supposed to be streaming on Hulu next month, but after audiences have seen it recently and it got such a good reaction, they are going to send it to the theater. So,
okay.
Yeah, even bigger movie. And maybe, just like every year we've done a fucking Up in Flames episode, perhaps Five Nights at Freddy's is coming out this year.
I don't even remember the story behind this.
Is there a story? I mean, what, the movie? Or
has they been holding on to it? Has it been done? Like,
well, they're always like, we're going to make it. Like, a script has been written. It's been greenlit. And then like months and months to a year would go by. And they're like, we're still going to do it. But now it's been cast. I think they're actually filming it now. It may or may not make it to 2023. It may be a 2024. Who the fuck knows? But damn it, I'm tired of talking about this movie already. Just let me fucking see it.
I should make it a TV show, and like it should be like episode 1, the first night, the second night, the third night, the fourth night, the fifth
night. A 5-episode show?
Miniseries.
You're right. Then I'd never watch it.
Just skip to the 5th night.
Shit. Well, I think that just about burns down 2022. It is up in flames officially. And as always, we would like to know what your favorites and maybe not so favorites of 2022 were. You can tell us on social media at The Film Flamers on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com, or you can call our hotline at 972-666-7733.
That wraps up everything we have on the main feed for you, but we have some romantic and beyond horror movies coming out in February to talk about, and they are Heathers
and The Craft.
And if you need more Film Flamers content, head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers, where you will find a poll to vote in the movie that we're going to talk about over there.
That's right. And it's going to be made up of our high school horror top 10 from way back in the day.
That's right. A blast from the past.
2s and 3s of years ago.
We have a new review in the pipeline ready to read on our next Shooting the Flames episode, but we would like even more. So head over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, and tell us why you like us, and we're going to read that on Shooting the Flames.
Well, Robert.
Well, Chris.
I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Bones and all.
I need to up in
works for
flames
everything.
This night. I know. What a good title. It just works.
Smile.
Don't fall.
You won't be alone.
All right, with all that said, let's go have some sweet dreams.
Man, we should have done like Scariest Movie Monster, and I've been like, that fucking log.
Don't give it away.